Thanks for choosing to listen to this Late Night Linux Family podcast. We're only able to do this because of the people who support us. None of our shows are paywalled, but our Patreon supporters can get most episodes early and never hear any ads. Learn more at latenightlinux.com/support or support us by telling a friend or colleague about everything we do. 2.5 Admins, episode 305. I'm Joe.
I'm Jim.
And I'm Alan.
And here we are again for a very short episode. Like we did at Christmas, we're going to do a short episode so that I can have a bit of a break in the summer. The question that I've got for you today is, what is the most valuable tool in your IT tool belt? And I thought it would be funny for Aaron to ask the guys on Hybrid Cloud Show the same question and not to confer, so we can compare answers. So what is the most valuable tool in your IT tool belt?
After thinking about it a bunch, the answer I came up with is awk, the little command line tool. Because it's kind of the Swiss Army knife of command line tools, you can basically do your grep, your sort, your search replace, and all kinds of other things with it. I think some of the most interesting things I've done with little awk one-liners was like take a giant log file of video streams and like condense it down to figure out like which IP addresses used how much traffic. So basically making an array out of these lines and say, for every IP address, sum up the amount of traffic that IP address generated for me, rather than looking at just the URLs. Or I could then run the same report again and change one little thing and get a list of, here's each URL and how much bandwidth it used and sort that. And all kinds of things like that you would either have to like feed all the data into like a CSV and throw it in a spreadsheet and fiddle around, or you write a couple of characters in a little one-liner and you get all the information out real quick. And the fact that you can be like, give me the first 10 lines or the last 10 lines or delete every second line. And, awk really is a programming language, so you can do as much as you want in it. I've even seen one crazy person parsing XML files in awk. I don't go that far, but I've definitely found it very useful as a way to just kind of decide what information I want from a file and parse it out, like break out the fields the way I want, split on whatever characters I want, and get the meaning I want out of that file.
The great thing about awk is you can do everything that you want to do in nothing but awk. The terrible thing about awk is you can do things that you absolutely should not do in awk.
Yes.
I think I have to give two answers because, my honest answer here is my own tool set, Sanoid and Syncoid. I couldn't function without it anymore. If it wasn't important to me, I wouldn't have bothered writing it in the first place. But that's too easy, it's too obvious, it feels like cheating, and I'm uncomfortable with self-promotion. So instead, I have chosen to plug MTR, which is a special traceroute tool that will give you either real-time, constantly dynamically updated pictures of what the problems might lie in between you and any given point on a network, including way out in internet land, or it can provide you with a report based on a certain number of tries of each point along the route. If you ever have to talk to your ISP about something more complicated than just nothing work, light not on cable modem, MTR can be absolutely invaluable.
Yeah, having fought with some server hosting providers and so on, an MTR from each side of the problem is the most valuable way to get them to pay attention to you.
There's an enormous difference between telling, for example, a web hosting provider, hey, I'm getting like 90 millisecond pings to my server. That's unacceptable. What's up? And saying, hey, I'm getting 90 millisecond pings to my server from my location, and 85 milliseconds of that is all coming from stringygibberish.atlanta.level3.org. It's just a very, very different level of analysis and ability to report a problem in a way that will actually motivate the people who have the access to fix it to really do something about it.
And there's a whole art that goes into reading the output of MTR. A lot of people get thrown off by seeing, some hop in the middle having packet loss. But if that hop has packet loss and the one after it doesn't, it means it's just dropping the ICMP to save CPU, and there's not actually packet loss. But if packet loss starts at a certain point halfway through the list and everything after it has packet loss, that means probably some packets are actually being dropped at that point. And if you can MTR from the other side and see where it starts from the reverse, you might actually be able to pinpoint exactly where the problem is.
Well, mine is very much zoomed out from yours. Your two ones were very specific little tools. Mine is live Linux, being able to boot from USB into a full Linux system and have all of that stuff that you talked about and a million other things. Being able to see, is the sound not working on this laptop because of a driver issue in Windows? Well, let's just boot it into a live Linux. Okay, the speakers are working. It must be a driver issue. Recovering data, just everything that you can think of, just off one USB stick.
Cloning a small Windows drive onto a much larger, just purchased drive for that Windows machine, just booting from a USB stick. Yeah, there are a ton of uses for portable Linux. I agree. That's one hell of a useful tool.
I mean, it was what sold me on it in the first place. Hang on, I can boot into this live session. Yeah, I'm instead of having to go through this laborious installer, I've just got an operating system and it's not touching my hard drive. It just blew my mind.
Now, the question I have is, are you one of those unfortunate souls who discovered booting directly from a thumb drive and thought, I don't need to install this, and happily booted from the same thumb drive every day until the thumb drive died 6 months later?
No.
I know some people whose Linux discovery journey started precisely that way.
Yeah, but I use a live FreeBSD like that a lot. Trying to diagnose a network issue, I need TCP dump and stuff. Or in particular, like Jim was talking about, I want to clone some hard drives, whether that's directly between two drives in the system or especially over the network. Being able to like DD pipe Z standard pipe netcat and fire that off to my storage server over 10 gigabit where it's got enough room to store images of whoever brought me their broken computer while I unbreak their computer or image the hard drive or like you said, swap to a bigger drive or, switch from a hard drive to an SSD can be super valuable. And, I know all the tools. I can run GStat and get like live read and write per second rates or have something like PV to see the progress and all those little things. Yeah, super, super helpful.
Right. Well, I said it was going to be a short episode and it was. We'll be back next week with a normal length episode. In the meantime, you can find me at joelrest.com/mastodon.
You can find me at mercenarysysadmin.com.
And I finally launched alanjude.com.
We'll see you next week.